The third story of the day is about John McCain and President Trump. So this has been the drama for months now, but especially now that John McCain died, of course they're using his death and his final statements as political fodder to continue to push their agenda. So first off, I want to start with what's most important. God bless John McCain. God bless his family. I want to be as respectful as possible before I get into the truth. Condolences. Nobody should go through this. And, I have a lot of love and respect for his family, and I wouldn't want to say anything nasty about that. On that note, there's some stuff we need to talk about because the media is getting absolutely ridiculous about this McCain and Trump stuff. So first of all, before McCain died, they said that he doesn't want Trump at his funeral. He was hating on Trump super, super hard. He was the opposite of nice to Trump. He was absolutely ridiculously mean to Trump. And Trump was a little mean to him too, but they didn't get along. So, it's like, are we going to pretend like they did now that he's dead? No, I don't think so. They didn't get along. So Trump went golfing. Here's one of the scoops. He went golfing 17 hours or within 17 hours after, McCain died. And they were like, is that too soon? I mean, McCain didn't like Trump. Trump didn't like McCain. Condolences to the family. But how long is Trump going to fake mourn over somebody that he really didn't like? Like 17 hours? That's not long enough. What, does he got to sit in prayer? Pray 5 times a day for 2 weeks? Is that sufficient? So the big scoop, well, Trump went golfing 17 hours after. Even if it's your family member, I mean, go golfing. Who cares? If that relieves stress or whatever, do it. So that's a big failed scoop. Another scoop was like, Trump put the flag at half-mast only for a day instead of a week. So he took it down, and according to reports, he put it back up to half-mast. First of all, I want to point out the hypocrisy here. I thought that the media and, the left wing didn't care about the flag. They thought it was cool that Kaepernick and a lot of these NFL players are kneeling. And I always say freedom of speech, freedom of expression. If you want to kneel, kneel. If you want to disrespect the flag, disrespect the flag. If you want to divide the country, divide the country. If you want to get fired from your job, get fired from your job. If you want to lose support from fans, lose support from your fans. That's how freedom works. You are free to do how you do. People are free to act how they act, and you're free to suffer the consequences of your freedom. So I was always pro-kneeling, but it's like if you want to hate the flag and, disrespect the country and disrespect the flag and not actually provide, an intelligent, real truth behind that, I'm all for activism, but then it's like, what are you really saying? Is it on point, or are you a little off kinder? But anyway, now all of a sudden they're like, we got the flag to go back up. So I thought that was pretty weird. It's like, okay, now all of a sudden they're huge they care about the flag so much it needs to stay at half-mast. A little consistency would be nice. But overall, I wanted to point out those things. And I also just wanted to point out John McCain and his legacy and his history, because as I've shown my condolences and my respect, I think it's great that he fought in the war and whatnot. I won't disrespect him like maybe Trump did, but his legacy over the past couple of years to me, and this is before he had brain problems and before he died, I mean, I had never seen something as traitorous, treasonous, and I'm not saying real treason, real traitor. That's for, the courts to decide. I'm not a judge. But I've never seen someone do a 180 and someone lie and deceive people as much as John McCain. And I don't think I should lie about that just because he passed away recently. I mean, first of all, to the people of Arizona, pretending he was a conservative his whole life and then switching up on them, as soon as Trump gets into office. Another thing that you see is, respect to him, that he wants he wants Barack Obama and George Bush to do eulogies at his funeral, which is beautiful. And I put out a sarcastic but kind of serious tweet. I said, this is beautiful. Democrat and Republican. This is true unity. Start the same wars, fund the same rebels, push the same agenda. Of course he likes Barack Obama and George Bush. Of course John McCain wants Barack Obama and George Bush to say something at his funeral, because they're the same thing. They're the reasons that Trump won the election. Democrat, Republican, war in the Middle East, same agenda, fund the rebels, kill, leader of Libya, try to kill the leader of Syria. There's no difference. So of course he likes both of them, because he's he was one of those politicians. And I also want to say what he was doing in Syria, I think, to be honest, was really absolutely disgusting and disturbing. And I think what John McCain did in Syria affected the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. and helped to create the refugee crisis that liberals and activists care so much about. When it comes to Libya and Syria, especially Syria, I'm not so much sure about Libya, but I've heard reports of that, but I don't want to talk about it since I'm not sure. But in Syria, John McCain was directly opposing Trump. Trump got into office, said he wanted to defeat and destroy ISIS. John McCain wanted to fund the rebels. President Trump cut $1 billion CIA program where they were funding rebels. These rebels, Tulsi Gabbard, Rand Paul, many people said weren't really rebels. They were terrorizing Syria. And you talk to a lot of Syrians, they say the same. They had a president, Bashar al-Assad. It was a secular government. You could be atheist. You could be Christian. I mean, Syria was not that terrible off as far as other places in the Middle East. But John McCain and George Bush and Obama and their little crew, they decided, what would Syria be like if we funded rebel groups and tried to kill the leader of Syria and then leave a complete power vacuum that terrorists would run rampant all over? And they did this for years. And it led to the refugee crisis that you see, hundreds of thousands of people having to displace themselves among Europe and the United States and other countries because their country wasn't safe to live in. There would not be a refugee crisis if you didn't destroy and destruct their country. So his legacy to me is a legacy of murder, is a legacy of war, is a legacy of funding terrorists and rebel operation groups that, led to one of the worst refugee crises of the modern 21st century. And Tulsi Gabbard, I'm not quoting myself here. You have Tulsi Gabbard on CNN who told Jake Tapper, I went to Syria and they say that there's no such thing as rebel groups. Who are these rebels? Who are these people? Because you say rebels, but you go to Syria, they say terrorists because those people are trying to kill and overthrow their government. So it's a terrorist group to them. To you, it's a rebel group. And there's also a lot of reports that their weapons, the rebel groups that McCain wanted to fund so bad, they were ending up in the hands of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. ISIS and Al-Qaeda, according to mainstream reports, were driving United States cars, shooting United States weapons, being funded by the U.S. and Britain and other countries as well. So were they purposely doing it? I don't know. Was it happening? Yeah, it was happening. So either it was purposely happening or they had a bad strategy to fund the wrong people who then got taken over by terrorist groups and then, destroyed much of Syria until President Trump got into office. Now Syria's pretty much back to normal thanks to him cutting the $1 billion program. And a lot of progressive, Puritans who want no wars say, oh, President Trump didn't do anything. That's a total flat-faced lie. And I'll tell any progressive to their face, you're lying. A big reason that Syria is the way it is because Trump cut a $1 billion funding program. Did he do everything you'd do? No. But did he help? Of course he did. And it's a lie that he didn't. And a lot of people want to say that because they want no wars and they want anarchy and they want world peace. And that's great. But, call it like I see it. Trump did help. McCain, as Trump was trying to help Syria free themselves from terrorist organization and rebel groups, John McCain was flying to Syria. So he was directly trying to undermine the president of the United States while he was working. Trump is literally freeing Syria of terrorist groups and rebel groups, and McCain is flying to Syria before he passes away, taking pictures with rebel groups and saying, we're doing it anyway, even against President Trump. It's a literal coup of the United States. And I also want to say, if you want to search on YouTube, just to be honest, I watched recently for the first time this week, John McCain is criticizing Rand Paul, who's criticizing him, and Rand Paul says, you're funding terror groups and you're funding rebels. This is Rand Paul saying it, not me. And John McCain looks at the news thing and says, has Rand Paul ever met with ISIS? He literally said that. I mean, go look it up. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think Rand Paul's met with ISIS. Have you met with ISIS? Because I thought we were their enemies. So he's like, oh, he's talking about ISIS. He's never even met with them. It's like, what? So it's like, that's very interesting among undermining the president. And I just want to read as well, he had a final statement, which is just to me, to other people, it's beautiful and amazing. And like I said, condolences to the family. I'm not being mean to him personally. I would never wish death upon somebody. I hope his soul and his spirit lives on. And I hope, he's a beautiful person somewhere else. And I hope his family is well off and stuff. But on that note, I can't pretend that his final statement was this beautiful Puritan statement of, world peace. He dropped a political statement so that he could continue to push his political agenda, which in my personal perspective, you're allowed to have your own, is one of the ugliest, brutalist, and most dangerous and terrible political agendas of the modern 21st century. And the dude literally passed away, and he's still pushing his agenda from the grave. I mean, these people have absolutely no shame. I'm going to quote part of his final statement that he dropped from the grave here. We weaken our greatness when we confuse our patriotism with tribal rivalries that have sown resentment and hatred and violence in all corners of the globe. I'm going to read it again. We weaken our greatness when we confuse our patriotism with tribal rivalries that have sown resentment and hatred and violence in all corners of the globe. I mean, to be honest, I think creating a refugee crisis and destroying Libya and Syria has created more resentment and hatred and violence than anything that Trump has ever said or done can possibly do. I mean, these people, they act like they're so pure. We need to not make violence and hatred. You're talking about somebody who was trying to overthrow the secular government of Syria. Even among President Trump winning, he was still flying out to Syria, trying to fund rebel groups who were terrorizing big cities like Damascus and all over Syria. So it's like, dude, how was that not sowing resentment and hatred? There's many reports from the Middle East that say the hate for America is more real in the Middle East than ever, not because of words, because of the actions of the US and British and other Western countries' governments of what they did there. They made a single enemy in the United States and the Western world by expanding these phony wars and basically creating destabilization in many of these countries to the point where millions of them, and a lot of them were terrorists and were, rebel groups and were ISIS members, fled to Sweden, Canada, Germany, UK, some to the United States. One got arrested in California the other week. They fled there directly because of stuff that McCain and a lot of these politicians did. So it's like, I don't know about that statement. He also said, we weaken it when we hide behind walls rather than tear them down. Of course, that's a shot at Trump saying, we weaken ourselves when we hide behind walls. We should be tearing all the walls down. I mean, I don't know what else I could say besides what I just said, but it's like these people that will push their agenda. As I say, condolences to the family, condolences to the friend. I would never wish death upon anybody. I wish he would have lived longer, and I wish, everybody feels great and happy and stuff. But if you're I'm not gonna sit here like Bernie Sanders. I'm not gonna sit here like, a lot of these politicians that say his legacy was of honor. He was of great politician and did many amazing things to America. I'll say he was an American war hero. I'll say he was a veteran, and I respect that. I'll say he served the country. That's a beautiful thing. I'll say that, I definitely don't wish he died. I think people doing that are pretty rude and mean. I don't agree with that at all. But I'm not going to sit here and say his legacy is one of great honor and great valor, because it's really not. I think his agenda, along with, Bush, Obama, that's why he wants them both at his funeral talking, because they're part of the same agenda. And the people are growing up, tear down all the walls so we run the whole world. That sounds really great. Tear down the Mexico wall, tear down the European wall, and then we'll run Europe, and then we'll run Syria, then we'll run Libya, and then we'll run the United States, and we'll run all of the world, and, there'll be no walls, but we'll control it all. I'm good with the walls. Build the walls higher, have better vetting systems to make sure that you don't destroy Western civilization, help improve Mexico from the inside out. That's my solution. But, once again, much love, condolences to the family. But among this situation, I think it's pretty wild that he's still pushing this agenda, this like fund rebels. And, it's really been very disastrous in Libya and Syria. And beyond the grave, like, the dude's still pushing the political agenda. I just had to weigh in on that. On the next note, but let me end that